Hey, what's up, guys? Tuki here, back again with another episode of my Cincinnati Reds Draft to Glory franchise mode series, the mouthful of a title. Regardless, we're moving on. Yeah, it's another season. Today, it begins, at least. We might go through all of it. I don't know. Kind of depends. The 2026 season is upon us. We are here on opening day. The roster is set, but we have a couple of things to get to, including your comments. First and foremost, though, perhaps the biggest move that has been made is that, unfortunately, Jason De Los Santos, who is our Rule 5 position player pickup, has been released. We simply don't have room for him on the Major League roster, and you will see why. And then, of course, we filled out the roster. But getting to your comments, I think, before that, Bushes are people, too. If I had $1 for every time Tuki said the Pirates are good, I'd be rich. They've won how many? They've won at least 3 World Series so far. They're pretty good, as it turns out. Look at the reliever for the Royals, Lou Batista, and Jose Rivera for Seattle. Let me see here, because there's going to be quite a few players that we're going to try to track down here. So it is Lou Batista. Let's sort. Unfortunately, you can't sort by name, which is kind of unfortunate. So Lou Batista, who was a B potential, 22-52 overall. Fresh out of the draft. Not great. And in Seattle, I am going the wrong way. That is okay. In Seattle, it was the starter, Jose Rivera. The good thing is we're not seeing him all that quickly. Jose Rivera is a 58 at 21 years old. That's not bad. He could end up being a half decent starter. Zachamo, dude, your name. Man, your name. MLB has no franchise length cap, though. That is tremendous. So I'm happy about that. Eliza, I think the Mets took a guy named Cesar Cordova. We will double check here, but I believe you are correct. Now to answer the question, I guess actually let's wait until we get a look at what's going on here with this guy. Did I go right past him? I'm on the Phillies. Whoops, I hit the right bumper one too many times. That's how you know I wasn't paying attention to what I was doing on screen. I was still looking at other comments, and I'm like, okay, which ones am I going to cover? That's right. I'm judging you as to whether or not your comment's worth bringing up. Do you feel bad about it? So Cordova's an interesting one, where if you talk about his potential and will he get close to, I believe it was a 97 potential, as Elisa pointed out in the comments. Will he hit a 97? Probably not. Will he still be very, very good? More than likely. In the MLB games, players have a bit more development time than they do in NHL, at least another, I'd say, 2 years or so. So in 6 years, will he improve 15 overall points? I'd assume so. But sometimes it doesn't work out like that, and we'll get to a player that we can talk about as far as, his awkward development pattern. But, yeah, there you go. Sox, don't forget to change either Graham Edwards or Proctor Quinlan, I love how you still call him that, to a shortstop. You'll get a look at the lineup in a moment. But as far as Keston Hiura's future, yeah, probably. So, again, there was the argument as far as Cordova perhaps being the guy that we should have picked. But, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I mean, as far as who we took with the number 1 pick, or not the number 1 pick, the number 2 pick, I can't remember. Was it the number 1 or number 2 pick? I know the Rule 5 was one, and then there was the other. It's all good. We'll try to keep an eye on Cordova in the future. A lot of you pointed him out, so we'll see how he develops compared to how we picked. Ethan Atkins, when evaluating your pitchers, you should use FIP instead of ERA. And then you follow up to say whether or not you're underestimating my laziness. Kind of. Again, I wouldn't say it's overall laziness. Like, if we go back to our team, for example, right? At the end of the year, it does kind of suck to be like, okay, let's go over here, and over here, and over here, and over here, and over here. FIP, cool. Okay, now Logan Allen, here's how he did. Here are his numbers. Now let's go all the way over here, and here we are. It just adds up. Because, I don't know, I know a lot of people care about the stats, as you should, but when I'm having to look at so many players, as opposed, because we're looking at players' development and everything, it is a matter of laziness on my part. I'm not going to lie. And I will take that into extreme consideration. I promise. At this point, I think it'd be more beneficial to draft based off of positional needs. Yeah, pretty much. You're not wrong. Wood Chip, great name, by the way. You're not wrong in that we have reached the point where we need to draft by need. The hope, though, is that we're no longer going to be picking in the top 2 of a draft. And to be honest, we're a little bit behind schedule as it stands now, where I was hoping that we'd be above. I mean, case in point, we've never finished above the 70-win mark. I was hoping we would have been there by now, and then that way we could have gone with the reliever 18th overall instead of being like, oh, okay, well, it's the number 1 pick. We have to take the best player available. So it's been that kind of deal. Don't really know what to tell you. Might be a good idea to convert some starters and closers to relievers with your current numbers. Also, not a terrible idea. With the closers, I'm more paying attention to player role to see if anybody complains about wanting to be a closer and not. Playing out of position is a 40% reduction of their fielding stats, while playing in their secondary is a 20% reduction. I'll keep that in mind as well. We may have to change some things around. I honestly don't think this team's going to get to where you want it. Give it time, man. Give it time. Bolden Brand wants me to check Pablo Sandoval in Oakland. So let's check Pablo Sandoval. Now here's the problem. You didn't exactly tell me what position he plays, so now that we're at this point, I have to scroll all the way through. I forgive you on this occasion because he is a 68 overall at 19 years old, B potential. So if you want to know whether or not he's a good player, yeah, he's a good player. Andrew Duddy, you said my last name right. Well, hopefully I said it right this time. And then Kaufman wants me to look at a whole lot of people. Jesus, and again, you kind of made this the same deal of not giving me positions for these players, and that's kind of an issue because I don't really... I'm going to reject this request, okay? I'm going to reject this request. If you want me to double-check a player, and we've already simmed past where I can look at last year's draft picks, let me know a certain position. That way I know where to check, because otherwise it's just a little bit too time-consuming, but at least you got to see Pablo Sandoval. That said, we're getting down to this. First and foremost, to give you a look at our ranks, still not great, but 29th. 11th in speed, first in contact, 29th in power, and then 30th in pitching and defense. But, you know, we got some greens there for position rankings, so things are looking up, I do suppose. On the top prospect list, Joe Quinlan is 3rd, which is tremendous. Steve Carrasco at 15th, our best starting pitching prospect. Clyde Martin also there. He'll be down in AA or AAA this season, actually, which is fairly nice, and those are the only 3. So let's get to the lineup. Let's show you what this team is looking like. Our rotation this year, you can kind of see why it's ranked 30th. Of course, we have lost some players. Mason Denneberg scoring up to be our ace this season. Last year wasn't all that bad, I would say. I mean, you look at the WAR, you look at the FIP. You know, it is what it is. But Logan Allen, Thomas Manzanillo, Sean Jelly, and Joe Bailey. Joe Bailey, our Rule 5 pickup, will be the 5th man in the rotation. Eduardo Herrera as the long reliever. The bullpen, though, is looking pretty damn good, I gotta be honest, with Bruce Boyle, Durbin Feltman, Lincoln Post, Napoleon Gillis, Richie Sorvala as the setup man, and Will Vincent as the closer. So probably look for that bullpen to have a lot of work this season, and hopefully the big names, Boyle, Sorvala, and Vincent, can do some damage for us. Down in the minors, though, the likes of Steve Carrasco and Clyde Martin, both in AAA. Also Norman Garner, who will probably take the step up to the Major League bullpen next year, but I wanted to give him one more season worth of seasoning to kind of, you know, work things out and be a little bit better by the time we call him up. Now, this is what the lineup is looking like. Graham Edwards at 2nd, the 86. Francisco Jimenez is still here. Bobby Bloom at 1st. Brian Lopez at center. Tempted to just naturally change him to a center. Steven Ryder in right. Nolan Jones, 3rd base, and DH. Hiora at short. MJ Melendez and Josh Stowers, who I'm kind of surprised by default's that far down the lineup, but it is what it is. On the bench, Henry Shipman, Will Glover, and the guy I was talking about earlier, Ramon Vasquez. He is the reason why that Rule 5 pickup was discarded, because we could not send him down without putting him through waivers, and I wasn't willing to do it. Same reason for Glenn Huff. So both of them are on the bench. Hopefully they get some decent time, but obviously both would benefit highly from playing in AAA this season. It's just not going to happen unless we wanted to risk losing them. Overall, I think this lineup is looking pretty damn good. I'm kind of surprised the power game is as low rated as it is, with the likes of Bloom and Lopez in this lineup, Ryder as well. But I like the feeling of being an underdog. I mean, we have some high-rated players. I mean, the lowest overall guy in the everyday lineup is an 81 in Keston Hiura. I mean, Jimenez isn't going to be a regular for us. If it's non-DH, which of course it will be for the majority of the season, Nolan Jones is in at third. Down in AAA, the likes of Bryant Kay, Joe Quinlan, probably one season away as well. Want to give him that extra year in AAA to develop. Guys like Archie May, Martin Abreu, and Eduardo Carrillo surprisingly made it through waivers. He's the one that I had to try and drop to make room for Glenn Huff, and shockingly, he made it. So we have someone who's definitely major league level playing down in AAA right now, just because I didn't want to risk losing players. The AA lineup is not yet set, but there you go. Our look, or your look, at our team at this point. A big season up ahead where we have some expectations. There are some clear weaknesses with the team, but within the next few seasons, and mainly if you want to talk about starting pitching, I mean, Steve Carrasco is going to be ready probably within 2 years, maybe 3 at the most. Clyde Martin's there. He's going to take a while to develop, but I have a feeling this could be our first really good season. Whether or not I feel that way by the time we get to the draft, time will tell. I'll see you there. To the draft we go. Where will our record stand in 69 days? Nice. Draft day is upon us. We have a 25-33 record, so not quite what we were hoping for to kick things off. We're 8 games back of the often mentioned Pittsburgh Pirates. Hopefully, though, we can manage to avoid some injuries. I mean, we have picked up a few, mainly in the minor leagues. A quick look at the stats. Let's wait. Let's get right into the draft here. We'll go at the very least to as we have the number 1 pick again, so that doesn't help. We'll go at the very least to the All-Star break, if not the entire season. But yeah, we have the number 1 pick again. So again, the pressure to take the best player available is there, as opposed to being like, oh, well, we need a reliever, so let's take a reliever. Not as easy to do that, so we'll still take a look here, and hopefully our needs line up with the best player available. So we start off with Eric Jaranko, who is fairly well-rounded, but not great at particularly anything, and at 20 years old, 4+ years away, that's going to be a no. Elroy Conforti has a great name. Again, though, 20 years old, 4+ years away, and not particularly that good at anything. I think we're going to avoid him. Doug Hughes, the starter, not particularly great, but probably the best option available thus far. Jay Sargent at 21, 4+ years away. I mean, I doubt it. Yeah, those numbers would have to be phenomenal, and they're not. Trey Robbins, our first non-blue chip option, not terrible, but not number 1 pick worthy, especially when we don't exactly need a catcher. Ryan Myrick, the 18-year-old, not particularly great. Might have a decent potential, like a B potential, but no, nothing amazing there. Carlos Salazar, the first baseman, has phenomenal power, and to be honest, isn't all that bad. Very versatile, but he's 20 years old and 4+ years away, so he's going to have a good power game, but everything else is just going to kind of be low. So I'm not sure. If he was 18, we'd take him immediately, but I don't know if I'm feeling that. We then have Felix Villalobos, who is pretty damn good. And if you want to talk about need, I'd say Villalobos is higher up there than Carlos Salazar, who, I mean, even then, we have so much competition at third. So I'm thinking right now Villalobos or Hughes based off of what we've seen. Chris Rosado, the starter, not all that bad, but I feel like with blue chip guys we have more of a guarantee. So the 280s are nice for breaking home run, but not quite. Pedro Rodriguez, the starter, also not bad, but not amazing. If he was blue chip, he might compare to Hughes, but I think Hughes wins out, or even Villalobos. Steven Richards, master of the Stevie kick, or the Steven kick for that matter. Depends on what era of ECW or WWE we're talking about. Regardless, he's okay. WrestleMania 20 main eventer, for those who get that meme. But yeah, he's well-rounded. Number one pick worthy, probably not. Jonas Lopez, also fairly well-rounded, but probably not number one pick worthy. I'd much rather go for Villalobos to bolster up that bullpen. Chris Velez, another closer, looks phenomenal. Jesus. Okay, I don't know if we should take him with the number one pick, but my God, if we could get him in the balance round between rounds 1 and 2, then my God. There's also Victor Villalobos, the 18-year-old, who is not particularly great at anything. Very well-rounded. Of course, we don't exactly need a first baseman. And we also have Tom Lau. Okay. Really good contact. Power's okay. Vision and discipline are solid. The fielding's not great. Decent speed. I mean, we do have the best contact team in the league, though. We kind of need more of a power option. And as it is, that outfield's already pretty stacked. So, I don't know if we'd want to take Tom Lau. I think maybe going for Villalobos as a closer/reliever, if we change him over, which we probably would, might be the better way to go. That's a tough one. Dennis Wooten, not bad. But 21 and 4+ years away kind of ruins it. David McGaffick will obviously avoid. Mojica will probably avoid. We have Randy Cruz as well, who isn't number one pick worthy, especially with that high injury risk. Daryl Valentin, also not particularly great, but not terrible. Tommy the Gun Morrison, we'll avoid taking him, though. Alan Haskett, how are you? You're pretty good, but not number one pick worthy. Russell Zarate, not bad, but I think Villalobos was slightly better. Velez was certainly better. It's just the walks for Zarate. Not number one pick worthy, but now we can look at the likes of Velez and Zarate. If we could get either of those two in that in-between round, we'll be doing pretty well for ourselves. Walter Hara, fairly well-rounded again with the 60s and everything, but I'm not necessarily feeling it. What about Leo Perez? Disappointing that he's not better. He's 3 years away at 20 years old. Couple of 80s in there, but the 55, the 60, I don't know about that one. Stephen Colvin will avoid, and then it drops down. So for me right now, the options appear to be Velez, Villalobos, or Hughes. We do need a starter. And Doug Hughes isn't phenomenal. It's him or Leo Perez for high-end starters, or we take Villalobos and then potentially still get Zarate or Velez on that in-between round. So I think that's the one concern, is Villalobos is pretty damn good, but so is someone like Velez. The problem is Villalobos has more of a guarantee. He's 2 years younger and should be ready next year. So that's crazy. Like, we could have a secondary Will Vincent, which will cause issues eventually. And that's been the issue as to why I haven't taken too many like high-end closing prospects, because that could cause a conflict with Will Vincent in terms of who gets to be our closer. But there's 3 really good closing options, 2 decent starting pitching options. Nothing too amazing, though. Where, again, it's like Doug Hughes isn't that bad. He just should have a high potential. Myrick was okay. Rosado was okay. This doesn't appear to be a great draft, though. I don't know if I'm incorrect in saying that, but this doesn't appear to be that great of a draft. Like, even the blue chip prospects, and we don't have, for example, like the Joe Quinlan, where it's like, oh my God, clearly this guy's the number one pick. That's not a thing in this draft. Unfortunately, like Tom Lau is the closest thing I had seen because of his contact. But when you look at who we have in the outfield with Lopez, Stowers, Carrillo, Huff, and Steven Ryder there, we have Archie May in the system. We do somewhat have room for one more outfield prospect. So, to me, it's take an outfield prospect. It's either take Lau or take one of the 2 starters. I think, ideally, we take Lau, number 1, we get one of the 2 starting pitchers here and one of the 3 closers there. And I feel like that might work out. And the only reason I'm willing to risk is because I don't have a ton of faith in Perez. And Hughes he's not going to have the highest starting overall. Drafting for need versus drafting the best player available when you have the number 1 pick. That's the debate. Steven Ryder's 28, Lopez is 27, Stowers is 29 already. It's crazy. We do have the need for one more solid outfield prospect, or we take a decent starting pitching prospect, but not a great one, in Doug Hughes. I think, just for the fact that we're still missing an ace, I don't know if Doug Hughes is going to be the guy. Let me look at Tom Lau one more time here. So again, really good contact. The power is kind of meh. Vision and discipline solid. He's not a great outfielder, but he does have decent speed. Oh, man, no secondary position. Showing up as a 60 overall, if that's, dependable, which it probably isn't. So Perez is going to be ready in 3 years. Like I said, I just like the fact that, Perez is going to be ready in 3 years. Hughes is 2 years younger. It's going to be 4+ years away. Neither guy, though, is like lights out. Again, a 55, a 60, a 65, a 55, a 60, a 65, another 65 for Perez. Let me know who you would take. But I am going to go with Tom Lau with the number 1 pick here. And then hopefully we get one of the 2 starters and one of the closers in the next few rounds. Tom Lau is the pick. Doug Hughes is off the board. Let's take a look. And Leo Perez is off the board too. So Perez went 7th to Toronto. And Doug Hughes went 9th to the Angels. So we'll see if we made the right choice there, taking Tom Lau. He's a high schooler, by the way. All right, the good news is we have our choice for closers. We'll probably get 2 out of 3 closers here. Or not. Did I miss it? Where'd that closer go? Where's that? Oh, shit. Yeah, Villalobos. He went 12th. Okay. So I'm still fine with getting Velez, who I felt like was the stronger option. So Rate has 165 and a 55. Yeah, so we're still going to get Chris Velez here, which I'm fairly happy about. And now we have the choice to also take Zarate, or we could go elsewhere. Like a Walter Hara, for example, who I'm not overly impressed by. I wasn't overly impressed by quite a few of the 80s that were remaining. Outside of the closer, Zarate, of course. Ryan Myrick as a starter. Might not be the worst idea to take a starter now. Might not be the worst idea. Hey, let's double check this. So again, Dennis Wooten we're not going to take. Walter Hara is okay, not great. We don't exactly need the infield help. Chris Rosado isn't terrible. So there's a couple of starting pitchers here that could be worth taking. We could take Zarate. I do want to look at the 75s. Cyrus Graham is, he's okay. He's about that same caliber, to be honest, in terms of just the myriad of starting pitchers available. Earl Arthur, the 20-year-old, same thing, not particularly bad, not particularly great. So there are still quite a few starters here. Patrick Byers, numbers are looking pretty damn good as well. 60 to a 65, 60 for control, 65 for home runs. William Samuel, another starter, a little bit of a step back, but not terrible. So plenty of starting pitching, or pitching options to choose between. Danny Leonard, also not that bad. Not great, though. Could be a decent later round pick. Alejandro Guzman is okay. Ken Golligan, the shortstop, nothing amazing. Julio Alonso, another shortstop option. Nothing amazing in the hitting department. Great fielder, but it's like you need the bat to go along with it. Matthew Duitzman, what the hell is with all the shortstops? Solid contact. Decent fielding as well. Could be a decent low-round pick. We have Kevin Rosales, who, again, isn't that bad. I think we can get at least a solid C potential starting pitching later on. Dave Battle, great name, not a great prospect, judging by the numbers. And George Machado. Okay, so my decision here, I think we're going to be going with that closer because there's just so many starters to choose from. Fernando Chavez. High injury risk, though. If we were in a DH league, if we were in the AL, I'd probably take him. I don't know if I want to risk it, though. What about Scott Clausen? Scott Clausen is looking much better. Scott Clausen is looking like a bit of a beast. And I'm not against going off the board right now and potentially picking him up. There's also Josh Page, who's solid. Harmon Malgrat, not particularly terrible, not particularly amazing. Matt Land, same thing. And Ray Bermudez will avoid for now. So, to me, just because of the kind of ridiculous amount of starting pitching prospects, none of whom appear to be amazing, it's either Zarate or it's that outfielder perhaps a little bit early. And we do have the number 1 pick of the next compensation round as well. Do we go for Zarate? How does it always end up being outfielders, by the way? Scott Clausen there. I'm going to take the risk. I'm going to go with Zarate. I feel as though that's probably the best option because, again, guys like Lincoln Post, Richie Sorvala, if we can replace them ideally in the future, that'd be for the best. Durbin Feltman's also approaching 30. I think I'm going to take Russell Zarate. Pray that outfielder is there in the in-between round, and then third round we take a starting pitcher. Russell Zarate is the pick. Please don't take that outfielder. Please don't take that outfielder. We're good. I think we're good. We are. Let's take Scott Clausen here. No questions asked. And we'll look for a starting pitcher, whoever's left, including Alan Haskett. Okay. So that worked out. That worked out for the most part. So who the hell is the best starting pitcher left? That is the question. And to be honest, Alan Haskett's not that bad. It's just he's 20 and 4+ years away. So how low of an overall is he going to be, and will he be able to develop in time? Whereas Pedro Rodriguez is 4+ years away. Couple of 50s. He's not horrific, though. I think we could get a steal here with Pedro Rodriguez. None of these guys I was overly impressed with. We do have quite a few starters scouted out, though, so that's quite helpful. It's tough, like I said, because no one was particularly like a blowaway prospect as far as like, oh my god, we can't miss this guy out of all of these starters. At least from what I noticed. Earl Arthur is not that bad, although the numbers aren't overly dependable. Samuel's also not looking that bad either. I think just for the chance of the higher ceiling, we're going to take Pedro Rodriguez here, and then hopefully get another half-decent option after that. But I think Rodriguez, just for the fact that he's an 80, he's 18, so he'll have time to develop, and for the fact that we should still be able to get another half-decent starter. Earl Arthur's still there, and that's who I probably would have taken over him. So let's take a look here. William Samuel, 2 60s and a 50. Aside from that, not too bad. I'm not saying 100% we're taking a starter here, but I just want to get an idea. James McDonald, a 40, a 50, a couple of 60s. So 50 and 2 60s, and Samuel still looking like the best option. Machado, no, absolutely not. Earl Arthur, 4 60s and a couple of 70s. So Arthur, Samuel, both looking decent. Sid Roberts will avoid. Jim Blankenship, tremendous name. Not a tremendous prospect. Willie Rimo, also not particularly horrible, but not particularly great. Dave Battle, same thing, not particularly great. Manuel Nieves, just kind of okay. We have a lot of starters scouted, damn. Mario Vina, couple of 50s, couple of 60s. Malgrat, couple of 7. Okay, Malgrat might be the guy to take here. 55 in walks, 40 out of 55 in walks, but not terrible. Swift will avoid, Cologne will avoid, Tommy Alonso, no thank you. So Malgrat might be the guy to take there. Is there anybody else? We don't have any info there. Patrick Byers is honestly not bad if we, again, wanted to try and bolster up the bullpen. So there's a starter that's half decent, there's a closer that's half decent. We have Danny Leonard at first, who's well-rounded but not particularly great. Good arm strength, so we probably wouldn't want to have him at first. D'Angelo Alberts. Potentially decent power. Nothing else is really that great, though, so I don't know. If we could get him later on, that might be worth it. Fernando Chavez. High injury risk, but might be worth the risk right now. Matthew Duetzman. The Duetzman. Chavez might still be the guy, though. I think because it's been 2 outfielders and 3 pitchers, I'm going to take an infielder here. It's the last infielder we're taking. It's high injury risk for an 18-year-old, but there's potential there with Fernando Chavez. I'm going to take him, and we're going to see what happens. And then we'll probably look for another starting pitcher here in the 5th round. Earl Arthur is still there. Jesus. Malgrot's still there as well. Shit's crazy. Patrick Byers is still there. Okay, so I think because there were quite a few starters still available. Let's see, we have, 1 starter in this draft and 2 closers already. It's down to Byers, Arthur, or Malgrot. Malgrot has 160 and a 55. Arthur has a couple of 65s. I don't think either's going to be that bad. I'm going to go for the younger option, though, even though they're projected to be MLB ready around the same time. I think Harmon Malgrot. Let's do it. Even though the other guy had that slightly higher potential, Arthur ends up going to Seattle. I'll see if I remember that he's there. And unfortunately, we only have 3 other guys here. And I think it's between Singer and Alonso. Singer is not that great. Alonso, not that great either. Let's go for the starter in Tommy Alonso, just for the hell of it. So, I'm not sure how we did outside the first few rounds. Hell, I'm not sure how we did in that first round in general. We are about to find out, though. Tom Lau, 18 years old, a potential, a 60 overall. It's going to take him a while to develop, if he ever does, but he's still a pretty strong option for us there in right, and just in an outfield spot. In general, enjoy the clicking of my keyboard while I write down his name, because we're obviously going to sign him. So, Tom Lau, it'll take him a while to develop, if he ever does, but good speed and contact. At the very least, he has a future as a solid bench option, as that 4th option in the outfield. Chris Velez, 21 years old, a 72 overall, 87 potential. He'll be within the Major League bullpen. Within 1 or 2 seasons, he'll be a part of the bullpen. So I'm good with that. He'll obviously be signed. Not bad. I didn't expect a potential, and we certainly didn't get it. But still, for that in-between compensation pick, Velez is going to be a pretty good part of the bullpen for us. Again, 21 and a 72. He'll absolutely develop. Russell Zarate, another B potential guy. So right now we're 3 for 3 in terms of at least getting major league players on paper. Zarate's 19, 65 overall, so it'll take him a little bit longer to get there. Will he grow the 7 overall points needed to match Chris Velez's current overall within 2 seasons? I'd like to think so. Zarate will be signed as well. And then we get to the interesting one, Scott Clausen, where, my God, I wish you were a B potential. He's not, though. 18 years old, extremely well-rounded at a 74 overall, but only a C potential. So, you want to talk about Tom Lau having a future as someone who is going to be, at the very least a bench option? That's Scott Clausen for you. As far as someone who, will be that 4th guy like Glenn Huff is right now, Scott Clausen is going to be that guy. Pedro Rodriguez. I think I made the right choice. 18 years old, 62 overall, 86 B potential. It's going to take him a little bit to get there, but he has time being 18 years old. Will he be able to grow 20 overall points in 10 years? Yeah, I can't imagine he wouldn't. And especially for where we drafted him, I mean, so far, I think we're 5 for 5. In terms of, we don't know what anyone else would have been, but just judging off the talent we have now, we're doing extremely well. And it gets better with Fernando Chavez. The big question with him, what is that durability rating? He's 18 years old, a 66 overall, great contact and speed, C potential, 36 durability. So not great, but to get a half decent option in there at shortstop. I mean, he's never going to be the guy. Of course, we have Edwards and Quinlan, Ramon Vasquez as well, who might make it. Nolan Jones is already there in case he doesn't. We're looking okay. He's obviously worth signing. Whether or not he's a major league player for us, I don't know. Harman Malgrot, 19 years old, a 63 overall, C potential. So someone else who will have a chance to maybe be that fifth man or the long reliever in the future. Not a bad pickup either. My God, we're having to type down so many names to keep track of. It's ridiculous. Tommy Alonso. Will he ever develop? I don't know, but he has time to do so. He's 18 years old, a 53 overall. Just misses out on that B potential, but still could have a future with the team. So overall, this is one of our best drafts, top to bottom. It's just whether or not we screwed up that number one pick. Again, let me know for sure if there's anyone you think I missed. Randy Clifford, for the record, should develop. Let's see here. Pittsburgh, Trey Robbins. Ryan Thompson's actually pretty damn good. I don't really recall considering him. Chris Cruz might not ever make it. Hell of a beard on Ramirez. Chris Rosado, 52, should have time to develop. Any other interesting ones? Steven Richards. He fucking looks like Steven Richards, too. 19 years old, 94 A potential, but a 51. So you have to ask yourself, in the next 9 to 10 years, by the time it's like, okay, for sure he's done developing, really, potentially shorter than that, can he develop 30 overall points is pretty much the question. Can he? Sure. Will he? That's a different question. Ryan Myrick, someone else I was considering pretty damn good. Had a feeling he was B potential. 88. He's a really good pickup there for Arizona. And then John Friedman, Mario Vina as well. Let's see. Mojica is okay. 21, that's a little bit rough. Quintana is awful. Let's see. Richie Casilla, Patrick Byers as well would have been a pretty good pickup. Kind of regret not taking him and taking the starter ahead of him, but kind of had to do what we had to do. Jay Sargent would have been a big swing and a miss at catcher. Carlos Salazar, again, same thing. The next 8 years or so. Can he develop the 25 points, 20 points really, to be useful at the major league level? Probably. The Red Sox get Armas. Whether or not he develops, time will tell. Kind of a low overall, though. McGaffick, he's 22. So, again, the problem of having a really low overall. Whether or not he ever makes it, time will tell. Daryl Valentine, Danny Wilkes, Alan Haskett, pretty decent. Let's take a look here. Leo Perez, 20 years old, a 66 and a 91. Maybe should have gone with old Leo Perez. He was one of the main three we were considering. Maybe should have gone with Leo Perez. I kind of regret that. I went with Tom Lau. I trusted my gut over with Tom Lau, and I still think based off the numbers, there's no guarantees that Leo was going to be a 66, maybe a little bit lower, but still. That may have been a mistake to take who we did. Lopez as well. I mean, it's going to take him forever to develop, but he still might. Certainly a possibility. Ray Sosa is a pretty good pick. And Aaron Singer, a pretty good pick. Good draft for Cleveland. Felix Villalobos, the closer we were considering. He's going to be great. And that hunch of saying, he might end up competing with Will Vincent. Yeah, he would have. There's no doubt about it. He absolutely would have been competition for Will Vincent in the future. Kansas City, Elroy Conforti might develop, he might not. Rodriguez is a pretty good pickup. Wooten's a wait and see. And Erasmus should be able to develop. Nobody in Minnesota. Doug Hughes, great pick for the Angels. That's the question. Should we have gone with one of those two starters? And I have to be honest, hindsight's a bitch. Yeah, we should have. We should have gotten it. Would have been Doug Hughes. I wasn't completely sold on the stats, But that is an instance where, in fairness, again, the argument's there that another outfielder might not be the worst case scenario, but we still need an ace. I probably should have gone with Doug Hughes. I admit that. I 100% admit that. I panicked a little bit, and we didn't end up getting who we needed. Victor Villalobos will take forever to develop. Greg Brazell is an amazing pick for Oakland. Stephen Colvin, nah. Earl Arthur. Okay. I screwed up. Just flat out. There's no way of knowing that Earl Arthur was going to be a 90. You could look at his grades, see where he was rated, thinking maybe a B at best. Odds are, like, that type of pitcher who's decent but a C potential. Overall, there are some starting pitchers that I certainly wish we had picked. And Earl Arthur is that high caliber steal for Seattle. Is killing me right now. Absolutely killing me. Wow, that hurts a lot. That hurts a lot. Machado's honestly not that bad of a pick either for the Marlins. So overall, we still had a pretty damn good draft, top to bottom. Was it the right choice to take Tom Lau? No. He's good, for sure. But you could say, and I tend to agree, a little bit of that extra need to take starting pitching. And their starting pitchers who are better than Tom Lau. Overall, it's not a complete swing and a miss. I should have gone with a starter. And that's fairly obvious, right? I mean, I can't defend that. You can say, and I can say, well, with hindsight, it's easy to be like, yeah, these starters. I went with my gut in the moment. Should have gone with the starting pitching. We didn't. And now we're going to have to deal with the consequences of that as, hello, we might be able to get over 500 here before the All-Star break or not as we go on a decent losing streak. Couple of games left, though. Can we get closer to 500? Couple of trades going down here. We hit 50 losses first. No participant in the home run derby at the All-Star break. We are 45-50, though, so we're on pace for our best season to date. Will we be a playoff team? Probably not. And again, just to recap it one more time, rip me apart in the comments for the draft. I'm regretting that. It is what it is, though. In terms of our All-Star representative, Will Vincent. My goodness. He is one of the best in the league by far. 28 saves on the year, a 1.99 ERA, a phenomenal whip rating as well. 2 holds, only 3 blown saves. He's only allowed 18 hits and 7 earned runs, which is crazy. Absolutely crazy, just to get you a look at the numbers there. But, yeah, Will Vincent, at the very least, our first All-Star representative. He might be the only one. So what it's looking like, unless we have somebody on the bench. Graham Edwards, say hello to the All-Star game. And he earned his way there. He did. Graham Edwards, man. Look at this. 88 overall. Says he's listed on the bench, but that might be... That can't be... Okay, if he's on the bench... I shouldn't back out right now. If he's on the bench, it's because he came back from injury. Yeah, he's not on the bench. I guess, really? I guess it's because he's on the bench in the All-Star game? He's complaining about it, which, you know what? I appreciate the self-respect, I guess. But Graham Edwards has made it. Some very good development. 96 fielding, by the way. But 9 home runs, 38 RBIs, 10 stolen bases on the year, a 260 average, on pace for his best year yet, 338 on base, slugging at nearly over 400, 42 walks on the season. And just to give you guys a look elsewhere, 1.3 WAR. I mean, that's the thing, right? It's nice compared to the NHL games and every EA game in general to have all of these advanced stats at your disposal. It's certainly nice. Is Edwards the last one? Brian Lopez is also an All-Star. Oh my God. 91 overall. Tremendous. Couple of minuses here and there, but still 14 home runs, 48 RBIs, 22 stolen bases, a 275 average. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Brian Lopez, ladies and gentlemen. And Steven Ryder. Oh my God. 4 All-Stars for your Cincinnati Reds this season. 86 overall, Steven Ryder. Still improving at 28 years old. 15 home runs, 54 RBIs, 9 stolen bases, and a 271 average, a 362 on base. What a season for us, and all that more concerning that we have a losing record, even though we were at 40-40 not all that long ago. That said, we are not in last. We are only 4.5 games back. We have a playoff race on our hands. In the wild card, 4.5 back. We're not out of it. We are not out of it yet. Tremendous. Let's take a look at some numbers here. Mason Denneberg, a legitimate 84, cannon of an arm. A 26-year-old, a 5-6 record, which isn't great. The ERA still under a 4, pretty solid. And by request, holy shit, 1.4 WAR and a 4.01 FIP. I'm calling it a FIP from now on, and you can't stop me. So, not too bad. Logan Allen doing quite well as well, if we want to base it just off of ERA for the moment, for the sake of it. But an 83 overall, 6-4 record for him. Thomas Manzanillo, a 4-10 record for the 81 overall, playing like an 83. Not that much development for the 26-year-old, but a 4.33 ERA in that time. Sean Jelly, 6-6. A 4.21 ERA for the 79 overall. And Joe Bailey, our Rule 5 pickup, an 80, playing like a 78. Not happy with the contract. Some decent developments. 4-8 record with a 3.98 ERA. So our starting pitching staff hasn't exactly been dominant, but for the most part, we don't have anyone who's been woeful. So we have that going for us. Eduardo Herrera, who's not going to be happy. He's a 73. He's actually not upset about being in the... being the long reliever, which is kind of nice. He hasn't been brutal. 61 innings worth of work. He's actually been okay. The wins above replacement could be better. But, you know, and the FIP is up there. Just a tad bit. But, you know, Bruce Boyle, a legitimate 83 at this point. So you can see what I mean. Like, okay, if I sit here and check out the stat line for everybody, it's, you know, I wish you could kind of order, you know, like you could reorder what this looks like so you can just see the stats you actually care about first. That would be pretty cool. Durbin Feltman, 78 overall at this point. He's been okay. Well, there you go. Shout out to 7:42 in the morning. Lincoln Post. I'm recording this when I wake up, okay? That's a lie. I'm recording this before I go to bed. Or is that a lie? I'll never tell. Lincoln Post, though, 79. Playing like an 81. Not phenomenal this season. Napoleon Gillis as well, not particularly great. We could send him back down to AAA, and I'm not totally against it. He's not exactly ready for prime time here. Nor is Richie Sorvala. Apparently, he hasn't been brutal, but he certainly hasn't been great. And then, of course, Will Vincent, we know, was an all-star in every sense of the word. The problem is, I mean, if we call anybody up, like, it's going to be John Johnson, and he's going to get ripped to shreds, too. Norman Garner, who is dominating the AAA scene right now, might be ready. Carrasco and Martin, struggling down in AAA. You know, I think we are going to make that one change. I think we are. So it's going to be Napoleon Gillis going down to AAA. He's going to get jumped a season earlier than expected by Norman Garner. So excited to see what Norman can do. He'll get the opportunity. He goes up to an 85 right now. Jesus Christ. Unfortunately, I mean, I don't know. Do we have it? Fuck it. I mean, Sorvala's there based on his clutch. Fucking Norman Garner. Let me know what you think as far as him being the setup man. My God, though. What a jump up for him. What a jump up for him. And Napoleon Gillis will go to being the setup or the closer in AAA. And then down in double, not much going on. Lineup-wise, of course, Graham Edwards, we've already seen his stat line with him being an all-star. Josh Stowers, an 82. Some minuses here and there now for the 29-year-old. 12 home runs, 47 RBIs, and a 240 average on the year. Not too bad. Bobby Bloom, big bad Bobby Bloom, 90 overall. Getting ready for a big-time payday, and he fucking deserves it at 23 years old. 16 home runs, 46 RBIs, a 288 average, and nearly a 500 slugging percentage. Brian Lopez, of course, we've already seen the stat line. Steven Ryder, we've already seen the stat line. Nolan Jones this year, a legit 82, some improvements here and there. 8 home runs, 39 RBIs, and a 242 average. This season, Keston Hiura, and what might be one of his final seasons here, if not the last. 10 home runs, 53 RBIs, 9 stolen bases, and a 288 average. Not too shabby, Mr. Hiura. MJ Melendez, an 80 playing like an 82, 7 home runs, 33 RBIs, and a 299 average. Not amazing, but not terrible. And Ramon Vasquez has been getting some playing time. He's a 70, 72 technically. Some good improvement. 2 home runs, 6 RBIs, a 216 average. Again, I wish we could send him down. I don't want to risk losing him, especially as a former #1 pick. Jimenez would be the guy who suffers. Henry Shipman's been great off the bench, which isn't surprising. Glover's been pretty good, and Glenn Huff has also been pretty good. That raises the question, though, as to, no, that's right, we kept Marlin down in AAA this year. For a second, I misremembered. I thought we didn't have Glover there, but we did. I wanted Marlin to have one more season down in AAA. So Bryant K is a 74. He's a C potential guy, but a future bench option for us for sure. Dave Miles, another C potential guy, looking decent. Lee Wilkins is 25 at this point. Marlin is 25 years old, but up to a 78. I mean, he's going to be the backup option at first for sure. Joe Quinlan up to an 80 and is, in terms of average, doing extremely well. Martin Abreu at a B potential. We have some pieces. Archie May as well. I need to make sure he's in the lineup. He was before injuries kicked in. Need to make sure he's getting a little bit more playing time. And then down in AA, I'll have to make sure that Josh Rincon is in. But nobody major there for us outside of like a Stephen Booth, for example. So that is that. In terms of the success of this episode, things started off quite well. The drafts, solid for the most part, outside of maybe a brutal mistake in terms of not taking certain starting pitchers. But we are on pace to have our best season yet. And maybe if we make the right changes, we can make a push for the playoffs. Maybe put the pressure on just a little bit. You guys know the deal at this point. If there's anyone you wanted to see from the draft, let me know. Although I kind of made a point to look at all the high potential guys that there were. Let me know what you think as far as how the draft went down, what we could do with this roster to maybe change things up a little bit to keep us competitive as we move along. And that pretty much covers it. It could be a very big year for your Reds. As always, support the video, support the channel, and everything that comes along with that. Check out everything in the description if you haven't already. And until next time, have a good one. I'll see you then.